Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Liv, and in today's video we're going to be doing something a little bit different from what I usually do. So I'm going to be walking you guys through my tips and tricks for making an absolutely amazing speech and how to deliver it. So for those of you who don't necessarily know me on a personal level, like some of the people watching these videos do, I have actually quite an extensive experience when it comes to public speaking. Even during high school, oral presentations, all that jazz, I don't think I ever got below really 100% on assignments that did involve public speaking. I was school captain, I was constantly running assemblies, making speeches both inside school and outside of school. I reckon my biggest public speaking opportunity came when I was about 14. I attended what is called the Victorian Student Representative Council Congress, and this essentially is made up of about 180 students who come from different schools from across Victoria, and we all gather together in Melbourne City and we're on a camp together for 3 days where we discuss a whole heap of different issues revolving around the education system. So everything from what's actually in the curriculum to disabilities, to mental health, to LGBTQ rights within schools, all kinds of different things. So for this particular experience, I was put into a group that talked about curriculum, and our goal in this group was to teach teachers how to interact with students with different learning abilities and different learning styles. And for this group, for whatever reason, they decided that I would be the best person to present it. Little 14-year-old Liv right here. If she can do it, you guys can do it. I mean, look at her go. And I essentially had to stand on a podium in front of 180 other Victorian school students, the Minister of Education, on live TV, on YouTube, and in front of anyone else who felt like attending on that day. So to make this video a little bit easier for you guys to kind of get through, I've kind of split it into 4 categories. So the first one is developing your speech, then there is pre-performance, body language, and the actual speaking, so giving your speech. I will try and leave the times that each of these sections start about now on this video, which means you guys can just fast forward to whatever section you want to work on in particular, or if you wish, you can just watch the entire video. So, pre-performance tips and tricks. The biggest one I can give you guys, I know it's stressful, I still get stressed and really anxious when I speak. You can literally see me shaking even though I enjoy it, but make sure you are breathing. It is so easy to psych yourself out before a speech. Try not to. I know it's hard, but when you feel yourself starting to get stressed, try to focus on your breathing instead and just calm yourself down. The second tip I'm going to give you guys is to actually, prior to getting up and making your speech, visualize yourself making the speech and doing it really well. This just puts you in a better mindset, it makes you feel more positive about your speech and just more confident overall, and it has been proven scientifically to work. The third pre-performance tip I'm going to give you guys, especially if you're especially anxious before making speeches, make sure your cue cards are numbered and that they are in order. That way, even if the worst thing in the world does happen and you drop your cue cards, it's not a big deal. It's going to take you 30 seconds to sort out and you will be completely fine. So number your cue cards, make sure they're in the right order prior to you getting up and making your speech so that you don't end up making an awkward spectacle of yourself. This next tip is one I particularly like to stand by. If you dress smart, you will feel smart. And I know to some of you, you're probably going to be like, what are you talking about? On days when I knew I was making a presentation, having an assignment, making a speech at an assembly, I always made sure that I looked my best and therefore I would feel my best. So particularly when I was making speeches, I always tied my hair up into a bun. It just made me feel smarter. I don't really know why, but it just made me feel more in control. I didn't have hair blowing around my face being annoying. I also would wear neutral makeup because it made me feel more professional. So you kind of have to find your thing that just makes you feel good about yourself. Dress nice. I know at some schools, especially in Australia, we all have uniforms. So maybe even if it's just something simple, ironing your uniform before school, if that's something you don't usually do, just do something out of the ordinary that makes you feel a little bit more confident about yourself, and it will show when you are speaking. First piece of advice I can give you, and I cannot stress this enough, choose a topic that you are interested in and that you are passionate in. If you choose a topic you have no interest in, you'll be bored out of your mind. You're not going to have any hope of enjoying it at all if you just hate whatever it is you were trying to talk about. Remember, the whole point of you making this speech is when you are being assessed, whether it's for school or in a job interview, whatever it might be, you are trying to make the person you are talking to feel equally passionate about that topic. So if you absolutely despise whatever topic you're talking about, or you choose that simply because you think it's popular, you're not going to get your point across and you're not going to do as well. My second tip for when you're developing your speech is, as you're writing a speech and once you've finished it, read it out loud to yourself. If you find it boring, chances are your audience is going to as well. So if you think your speech is absolutely awful, and as hard as it is, you might want to rewrite at least sections of it. I know it's going to be a lot of work, there's no denying that. You can't achieve anything if you don't put effort in. That's just life, it's how it works. It is irritating, but if you find it boring, they're not going to find it interesting either, realistically. Third tip, and I cannot stress this enough, practice, 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 practice. I wrote my speech for year 12 6 months in advance of me actually needing it, and it was so chill. Like, I wasn't stressed at all. I could practice it in the shower, I could practice it in the car, I practiced it before I went to bed, and it just wasn't stressful. If you don't give yourself enough time to practice, or you just decide you don't need to, obviously you're not going to do as well. As far as actually practicing goes, as I said, you can practice pretty much anywhere. If I was you personally, and you know you get easily distracted, I would avoid practicing in a mirror, particularly as it doesn't really allow you to practice volume or projecting your voice, anything like that, and it is so easy to get distracted. 1 minute you're practicing this speech, the next minute you're staring at your eyebrows, wondering if you need to get them done, yeah? Like, if you're easily distracted, do not practice in front of a mirror. I cannot stress that enough. Probably the best environment to practicing is the one most similar to your speech. So even if you know you get really anxious giving speeches, if it's for, say, a school presentation, maybe inquire with your teacher if you could practice in the room a couple of days beforehand, just so you get used to that environment, and then on the day of your actual speech, you're not going to be anywhere near as stressed. It's also highly beneficial to practice to a live audience, whether it's just one of your friends or a couple. That way they can give you feedback and your speech will just be overall better. So the next little section of this video that I'm going to be targeting is body language. Do not skip. This is important. I promise you, it can make or break you. Please watch it. I cannot stress enough how important body language is when you are presenting yourself to a group of people. It is so important. Okay, so first tip for body language. Your whole point of you presenting this speech and focusing on body language is so that you can come across as confident. If you come across as confident, you're going to look like a more reliable source of information, people are going to be paying more attention to you, and your speech is just going to be overall more enjoyable and more entertaining, and people will be more highly engaged with it. To make yourself seem more confident, I strongly suggest that you stand up straight and push your shoulders back. Please do not slouch. If you're reading your cue cards like this, you're going to end up mumbling, you look really anxious, like you're not confident, like you don't know what you're doing. That is not the kind of image you want to give out, particularly in, say, a job interview, where they are looking for a very specific type of person. It's almost, honestly, giving a speech is almost like a type of acting. You are trying to make an audience perceive you to be a certain type of person, and you want them to be engaged with that individual. Tip number 2 for body language. Make eye contact. Do not spend the entire speech staring at your cards. You need to form a connection with people, and one of the best ways to do that is to make eye contact with them. So in school, if you are being assessed by a teacher, make sure you make eye contact with them. Especially, I know a few of my friends had this issue, even though they were trying to make eye contact. Every time they looked at their teacher seemed to be looking down at the page and marking it. If you are in school and giving an oral presentation that you are being marked on, make sure when you make eye contact with your teacher, you hold it long enough for them to actually have a chance to look up and look back at you, so that you don't lose marks despite you've actually done something correct. To same in any social situation, you trying to form a connection with a person so that they can share in your passion. So if it's in a classroom, look around, make eye contact with your friends, unless they're trying to make you laugh and they're kind of just crappy friends and don't look at them. Look at someone who's not going to make you screw up your speech. Tip number 3 for body language, do not fidget. I know it can be tricky, I'm a fidgeter myself, I constantly move, I get really restless, but for the 2 or 5 minutes, however long your speech is, try not to fidget. Don't tug on the hem of your shirt, don't wring your hands, don't sway back and forward. You have to stay focused, and as hard as it is, there are like things you can do to make that easier. So holding your cue cards, I know I clench my cue cards quite quickly. What? I clench my cue cards quite firmly, and that kind of gives me some sort of grounding, I guess, to a degree. The last point I'm going to make, centered around body language, is that while it is perfectly fine to make some hand gestures and it can make your speech more interesting, don't overstress its importance. It is far more important that you focus on your tone of voice, what words you are emphasizing, just the general way in which you are speaking, rather than focusing on how your hands are moving. In fact, if you use too many hand gestures or are too enthusiastic, I guess, about using them, you don't want to be talking like this because it does not look very professional, yeah? Even if you're trying to come across as being enthusiastic. Don't do that. It's perfectly fine to make a couple of hand gestures here and there, point made, but don't overdo it and make sure you are focusing more on how you are talking. Make sure you emphasize your key points and your main arguments. I personally like to do this by really slowing down my speech, making sure I'm articulating my words, changing my tone and volume to make it more dramatic and just generally more gripping. By doing this, your audience will hopefully be more engaged and more curious about what you're talking about, and you'll leave a bigger imprint on them. My last point to do with speaking is, remember, your whole goal of making this speech is to make them as intrigued and passionate by this topic as you are. If you are speaking with a really monotone tone, then you are quite obviously going to bore them. You want to keep your audience engaged and excited, so remember to switch up your tones, switch up your vocab, and do everything you can to keep them interested in what you are saying. Thank you for tuning in and watching this video, guys. I hope it helped some of you out. For those of you who do have speeches or presentations coming up, whether it's for job interviews or school or uni or whatever it might be, I wish you the best of luck. I'm sure you'll absolutely blitz it. You just have to believe that yourself. If this chick can do it, so can you. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a nice day.